So Irene was born in 752 in Athens, Greece, which was part of the Eastern Roman Empire, also called the Byzantine Empire at the time. She was born to the family, the Sarantapachena family, which had influence in mainland Greece and was a very rich family. Constantine V was emperor in the Byzantine Empire early in her life and arranged a marriage for her with his son Leo IV, and they were married in 769. It is unclear why he chose Irene to be married to Leo IV. However, people suggest that it was because of her beauty. Leo IV then ruled as emperor from 775 to 780, and this was when Irene was married to him, and so she was able to have some influence over the empire at that time, and that kind of, she enjoyed having power and influence, and that's what started her want to become ruler for herself. So iconolatry was a very debated subject in the Byzantine Empire at this point. Iconolatry is the veneration of icons in the Christian church. The first iconoclast period of Rome was from 730 to 787, put to an end by Irene. Constantine V and Leo IV attacked the church's venerations of icons, so they were iconoclasts. Someone who worshipped icons in the church was called an iconophile. It was unclear whether Irene was an iconoclast or an iconophile, but either way, she dismissed the iconoclast laws and regulations put in place by Constantine V and Leo IV. And this is what makes it interesting that Constantine V chose Irene to be married to his son Leo IV because of her disagreement in terms of iconolatry. So after Leo IV died, the rule went to their son, Constantine VI, and this was in 780, and Constantine VI was only age 9 at that time, so he did not have any significant experience or stance as emperor. Therefore, Irene ruled as regent alongside Constantine VI, and during this rule for 10 years, she made many accomplishments. Initially, right when they took rule, there was a rebellion by some of the other sons of Constantine V trying to get one son in particular, Nicholas, into court as emperor. And she was able to stop that rebellion. She also dismissed many unloyal ministers and military men from the court. And then she also had a military victory in Greece, fighting the Slavs. And she joined her courtier, Staurakius, and this was in 783. She also made many religious changes and was involved in religious affairs in the Byzantine Empire. In 784, she made former secretary Taurasios the bishop of Constantinople. This was a highly debated subject and was frowned upon by some Romans because Taurasios was not ordained, which was not typical for someone to become a bishop if they were not ordained. Then in 786, she convened the first church council to put an end to the destruction of icons. This council was highly rioted by iconoclasts, but she successfully sent the rioters to Asia Minor, but did not put an end to the veneration the destruction on veneration of icons. So then in 787, she was able to hold the 7th Ecumenical Council at Nicaea, and this was held in the Church of the Holy Wisdom. She chose to hold this second council in Nicaea because it was a smaller town and there was less chance of a riot occurring. This council had 350 bishops, Staurakios and Irene, and they successfully ruled to restore the veneration of icons in the Christian church. They also ruled, though, that perpetrators, so the current iconoclasts, were allowed to return to the church if they repented their sins, and this was because Irene had a lot of family that were iconoclasts, and she didn't want to separate herself or put them against her. In 790, it became known that Irene wanted to rule over her son. The army had many iconoclasts and were not loyal to Irene. She was aware of this, and in order to stop Constantine from taking over the entire empire and kicking her out as regent, she threw him in prison in 790, but the army stepped in and then released him. Because of this action, Constantine the Sixth banished her and her closest advisors from the court, and he was 19 at this point, so he had more experience and was older and could make more of a stance, hold more power in the empire. But Constantine experienced defeats immediately after he started ruling on his own. He was defeated by the Bulgars and then had to form a truce with the Arabs, in which the Byzantine Empire was going to have to eventually pay the Arabs back, but he made this truce so that they would not also defeat him. One of his uncles led a court conspiracy against him, and in response to that, he then had the tongues of 4 of his uncles torn out, which was not a highly appraised action by the other people in the patriarch. The army became to not like him because he blamed the soldiers for their defeats. He also tattooed traitor on the faces of 1,000 of the men, which was not admired. And then lastly, he experienced a divorce in 795 and remarried soon afterwards. This was not known as the Mochian controversy, and this was highly protested by monks. Also, they had a son 18 months later, which was considered a bad example as he was as leader of the church. Because of these actions, he lost support of the iconophiles, and he did not have many people in the empire supporting him, so he called Irene back to co-rule with him. Irene, seeing the weak Constantine VI, despite even though that was her son, she made a plan to take back the throne, use her leg up advantage at the moment, and take back the throne in 797. She put Constantine in prison and gouged his eyes out. He died shortly after due to his injuries. She was then left as emperor, the sole ruler. She was the first woman as a sole ruler in the Roman Empire. She also called herself Basileus, which is significant because that's synonymous with emperor, not empress. So she really wanted to make her power known. And she took interest in many realms of society, including politics, warfare, and religion. She reduced taxes, paid the Arabs, provided soup kitchens for poor, provided elderly accommodations, but she also rode around Constantinople in a golden chariot. And because of her reduced taxes and paying off the Arabs, the state went bankrupt, which was not admired by the Roman people. And this kind of made them lose some trust in her. In order to kind of reclaim the empire, she tried to make relations with Charlemagne, who was the emperor of the Franks, or the Franks king, and that was the Western Roman Empire. So she was trying to bring the two halves of the empire together, but that met opposition from eunuch Aetius in Constantinople. He was not happy about that, the joining of the empire. And also, the Pope Leo III at that time proclaimed that Charlemagne was the empire of the entire Roman Empire because he claimed a woman did not have the right to rule. The highest court in Constantinople then voted to overthrow Irene and exiled her to the island of Lesbos, where she died soon afterwards. She was then succeeded by Nikephoros I